All it needed was a little bit of assurance that all was
that
my butt is clean. All right, welcome everybody to episode 155 of Just the Thread. With me is Jason. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Adam. How you doing?
Good.
Hey, everyone.
Very good. It's a good day. It's a brand new day, and I'm happy to say that the year is almost over. We're approaching the end. We're on the precipice. Yes. We're a little late with this episode, and I have a feeling we might not make it to 2 episodes this month without doing an S show. But we'll see. We're going to try. We'll get it done.
I have faith in us.
You have faith in the heart?
Oh, no.
Ain't no one gonna bend or break me. I got faith of the heart. I've also got hobby progress. This past couple weeks, this fortnight, I did manage to finish up and get that Goonhammer article published. Thanks to Raph for doing that.
Awesome.
I really just wanted to have a nice full write-up of my thoughts on how to improve your productivity. Go ahead and check it out. Goonhammer is like the best. It's the best Warhammer site that there is.
I've read a couple of the articles on there. They're quite nice.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but
from the whole spectrum too. Hobby, narrative, competitive, and also different other games. Like today they had an article on Cyberpunk 2077. So there's lots of different articles on there, and it's all Patreon supported. So there's not a whole lot of like in your face ads, not a whole lot of clickbait. It's just content, which is nice.
Yeah, that is nice. I'm
just having content.
I'm quite tired of
being sold to all the time for like weird phallus shaped objects that the internet says is not that, but it totally is.
Yeah. Wish is a fascinating. I mean, I know we're talking about Wish, or at least that's what I assume.
Yes.
Hey, man, it's trying to sell me like a 24-string bass, which...
Yeah. Mr. Squeaky Frog says buy the bass. Buy it.
Oh, he does? Okay, yeah.
See, we have sound effects now. Now we're like one of the cool podcasts.
Oh, I could actually program Zencastr to do that, although I think only I can.
One of the cool podcasts now has a segment about doing Crusade. Do they have a Crusade content 1-2 now? So now we're not special.
Oh.
It's very sad.
Oh, well,
yeah.
It's nice to have other people doing Crusade because
that's
then hopefully
true.
We'll get some more.
We should look at it as an opportunity, not a challenge of our authority.
Yeah.
Also,
well, I mean, I would.
I'm pretty sure Badcast at this point has more listeners than we do. But we have the best.
Probably.
We have the best listeners, and I love Badcast, so it's fine. They can do all the Crusade content they want. Where was I?
Goonhammer article, and now you're going to talk about.
I finished the Thunderhawk. Yeah, the supersonic Git dropper, because I gave it a new name, and it's got blue.
Yeah,
it's blue with yellow flames on the front. It's beautiful, Jason. I loved it. It's so good. So I did what I said I was going to do. I took one of the armored containers, the Imperial armored containers. I drilled a hole in it, and I filled it with resin, and I stuck a rod in there, and that's how it worked. Now, so the seals on my model were not quite full, and that resin is just liquidy enough that it started seeping through the cracks.
Ooh.
I was doing a whole lot of shoring up with green stuff and everything like that as it was setting. It was not. Right. It was not a pretty sight. It really wasn't. But it got done. And to be perfectly honest, it was upside down. So the side that got kind of messed up with resin is going to be hidden by the inside of the Thunderhawk anyway. So
even better.
It's kind of whatever. And I painted them so they're all rusted up and dinged up. So it's not like it's out of place. So I painted up one red because it's full of explosives. That's the one that the rod is sticking into and that the Thunderhawk actually sits on. And I painted the other one green, and it says boys inside or whatever. And then that one's magnetized to the underside so I can drop it and put it on the battlefield and disgorge boys. Which was really fun. I did get a 1-inch rod, clear plastic rod from Amazon for that purpose. I have a big hunk left, so I'm sure I'll get another flyer eventually, so I'll use it for that. Or maybe I was actually thinking of using it. I was going to do an Armies on Parade maybe next year for my Carriage on Overlords, and I might do like a small sky outpost, like floating. I think that might be, and so all my ships would be docked on the side of it. I think that might be a neat display.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I always talk about doing one, and I never do, but maybe this time I have. Anyways, the way I weighed it down was I bought a 5-pound barbell weight from Walmart. So I bought the 5-pound weight. I glued some plastic card to like over the hole, flipped it over, and then stuck the rod in there. You wrap the bottom of the rod with a little bit more plastic card because the bar hole is a little bit wider to allow it to go on the bar. So, I used some of the not liquid nails, the JB Weld in there, and it holds just fine. It holds that JB Weld is good stuff. So yeah, it's got good. The weight looks really small. People have commented that it looks kind of small, but it is a full 5-pound barbell weight, and it for a base, and it actually works pretty good. I wouldn't put it on the side of a hill, but you would do that anyways. It would be really stupid. I'm super happy with it. I made some custom rules, but basically just using the old Andy Chambers looted vehicle rules, and also added some rules for the dropping explosives or transporting trucks or whatever. And I added a super cannon to the top because it has a basilisk gun on the top of it. So, yeah, this is fun. Yeah, good times. I do hope I'll use it at some point in a narrative game. I'm pretty sure we'll find an excuse to use that monstrosity. For now, it sets. In my game room because there's really no other place to put it. It's really big. Yeah. It's really, really big. Thunderhawk transporter. So, and I wanted to thank Colin for giving me the extra parts to make it like a kind of a collapsed wing, like a 4-wing 6-engine monstrosity. It makes me happy. Oh, and it was featured on Warhammer TV, which is always nice when one of your models gets
that is pretty cool.
Warhammer TV. Very happy about that. Thanks to everybody who gave positive reinforcement. Lots of awesome. It was at 169 hearts on Twitter until some jerk liked it. Now it's only 170. 169 was a lot more nice. Anyway, so I've been working on the Space Marine project, the 100 Space Marine charity project. I painted a Dark Hand Space Marine and a Storm Warden Space Marine and did their shoulder pads, their hand painted shoulder pads. I feel real bad about the Storm Wardens one because I used the Sergeant from Assault on Blackreach, and there's a big old purity seal at the bottom of the shoulder pad, so you actually don't see a whole lot of the symbol. Yeah. It's kind of a sorry, not sorry situation. That's fine.
Sometimes you just can't get past that. That's,
I mean, I could have picked a different miniature.
Yeah.
But he looked awesome. Yeah. He's so cool. So it's fine. I think that model looks pretty good. So I'm happy with it. There are a few models I'm going to have to touch up for that. I'm going to go through each one and just kind of look at it and see if there's anything really bad or something where I'm like, that would be 10 times better if I just took 5 seconds to clean up something,
Yeah.
But I have been working on the display box for the wall, like the shelf box. I used house paint at first to paint, like not like a load on this house paint. No, like a thin coat of house paint went over the whole thing. Because the wood, the burning wood, the MDF, it really sucks up moisture. So I went and I did some house paint for the first pass on that, and then I emptied a can of semi-gloss white. I think I need to get another can of semi-gloss white just so it's nice and hardy, right? Because it's going to get shipped. So I want to make sure it arrives to whoever wins in really good shape. And I've got some local buddies, Snooty, Aaron, Kendrick, Dave, and our friend, what's his name? Mark. Good Lord. And Mark, our Necrons correspondent, are painting some as well. And of course, some of the guys over on 1 Hour Night are still painting up a few, like Jason. Are painting up some stuff for us. So that's really nice. That should be done soon. My goal is to have that finished by January without any question. I still am not sure whether I'm going to cut out that poster or not and glue it into the inside of the box, because the poster is very faded.
Ooh,
so what I think I might do is I might leave the poster intact, include it as part of the prize, and then I'm going to actually paint the logo into that large, like it says like Warhammer 40,000 Space Marines or something like Space Marine chapters or whatever. I'll just duplicate that logo with just paint, and that should be fine. Yeah.
It's probably a good idea. It's probably a better idea.
Yeah, I think so too. It'll look nice. And then if somebody else wants, if the winner wants to cut it out, they can. Let's leave it up to them. So then I've got, so over at Splinter Mine, they're doing a Dracon's challenge. They're doing, you basically pick a stratagem and you do a small project before the end of the year based on that stratagem. So I'm picking Onslaught, which affects Incubi, and I bought the new Incubi plastic kit and Drazar. So I'll be painting the new Drazar and the new Incubi. They come with 28 millimeter bases, which is just like slightly bigger than the usual small 25 mil bases, but. Okay. Instead, I stole 5 of John's 32 millimeter bases from the box of Space Marines he gave me, and I'm using those instead. Because all the other 10 Incubi I have are on 32s. I assumed they would be on 32s, and
I would look
way better. They look way better with 32s. And anybody I'm going to play with isn't going to give a crap whether I'm using 32s or 28s. So that's where I am with that. So that is what I'm going to be working on. It's getting to the end of the year. I usually like to do a big kind of like for New Year's Day or New Year's Eve. I like to sit there and paint all day, but we have a baby and stuff now, and he's mobile. So I'll stretch that out a little bit, and I'll get these things worked on until New Year's. I also want to go back with my other 10 Incubi and old Drazar, and I'm actually going to paint over the red on those. Like right now they're in the same scheme as my other Drukhari, but these guys really are, they're hired thugs. They're not, I shouldn't call them thugs, but they're not really aligned with anybody. They're sellswords. They're mercenaries. So I'm going to actually paint over the red on their armor with black, and then go back and actually paint their cloth red instead, because I feel like that's something they could be like, okay, yeah, we're working with you, we're going to put on our red cloth like streamers or whatever. But they wouldn't be changing their armor, I feel like. I saw somebody online did, someone in that Splittermine group actually did bone-colored incubi, which that's awesome looking. It really is. But so, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I might do that first just to kind of get my feet wet with these and then move on and paint the new ones. Jason, what's your hobby progress?
So spot the Helldrake because I only like nicknames that are hilarious. Let's see. So I guess the last time we talked, I had built him, or I was finishing building him, and I think I hadn't primed him yet because I primed and started painting immediately. Mm-hmm. So he's almost done. I need to go through and do some touch-ups. Like I gave myself I think I said I gave myself 4 or 5 days to get him to tabletop. And I was able to do that, and then I had to put him down because of the end of the semester. So
yeah, you're unrelenting hellscape of grading and begging and pleading.
I'm still not done with the letters of recommendation yet.
And the gnashing of teeth.
Yeah.
It's gnashing of teeth season over at higher education.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. I'm not going to say anything more.
You know who has sympathy for you? Mr. Squeakers the Frog. He says,
well, I figured. Mr. Squeakers loves me.
Yeah, I need to get more sound effects. Podcasts with sound effects are way cooler. That's right, Mr.
All right, Squeaker. So Helldrake, pretty much, it was a lot more fun than I thought it would be. Everyone always complains about, the taking care of, the edging and whatnot, and it really didn't bother me. I had a lot of people recommend that Sharpie method. Yeah, and I had a lot of people recommend the Sharpie method. Let me see. What I did, I went through and did even the kind of candy apple red theme that I have for my Thousand Suns, and I'm actually pretty happy with it. It's actually probably one of my better paint jobs.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and it just screams I missed a spot.
Oh yeah, that's my same spot.
It's really good. You did a great job.
Thanks, man. I do know that I have to pick up glasses, like readers, so I can see close up because, because I was holding it at mid length, thinking I think I should be closer to this, but I can't see it. So all right, so that just means I gotta go get some.
I wouldn't just go by readers. I would go to an actual ophthalmologist and get tested, and also maybe think about getting an A1C test if you haven't recently.
What's an A1C test?
For a pre-diabetic condition.
Oh, I've already taken. Okay. I got all sorts of tests taken a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. All right.
Now, the optometrist basically said, "Hey, man, you've been dancing on that edge of having to get bifocals for 4 years now.
Right.
I think you might need to go ahead and get them." So, yeah.
Okay.
So anyway,
no problem. It was just a little public service announcement. If you suddenly find yourself having issues with eyesight, get yourself an A1C test because that's what happened to me.
Oh, okay. No, I've been playing this game with my optometrist for 4 years now. They're just well, it's you don't need them, but you might need them. You don't need them, but you might,
Yeah.
So now I probably just need to go ahead and bite the bullet and get them.
Right.
But yeah. Cool. So
Spot
games played.
We'll see you in battle soon.
So I'm sure he'll explode immediately once he hits the battlefield. I do have to do the what's this thing called? The flying stand. I've never completed a flying stand ever. I've built them, but I've never done anything with the base. So this will be a new thing for me. It'll be great.
Yeah, it can be hard. You gotta be careful. I personally do the base, and then I actually spray. I usually just spray it with my semi-gloss, right, and the flat coat too, because I usually end up scraping it up anyways, and it starts looking ugly. But if you actually spray it with the clear coats on your model, it gets kind of a foggy effect, like a frosted glass effect, which remains consistent throughout its life. That's my opinion on that. I think it looks good, personally.
Okay.
It's you do you. You can look at my models and see. Now, for the Thunderhawk, I didn't do that. I left it clear, and it already has like scratches on it, so I might spray it anyways.
I'll probably do that at some point. Yeah.
For games played, I did get a day with a Crusade group in Queensbury this month.
Yeah, that was fun.
Really great. Loved that. Now, Kendrick came up with a cool scenario for us all to play. I was the attacker, and so was Tucker. Tucker is playing Necrons, and I'm playing my Drukhari. And we were attacking Kendrick. He had his White Scars, and Dave had his AdMech. We did play two incursion games, but we were set up next to each other, and it was kind of like a kind of double pincher sort of narrative. And there is a civilian rescue style mission in the Beyond the Veil mission pack. But the way that it adjudicates the evacuees is objectives that move randomly, because the civilians are unpredictable in their movement patterns. Kendrick wanted to try it out where the people had predictable movement, in that they were running away from the Xenos that were coming after them, which makes complete sense in my mind. He used zombicide zombies as the people, and they would spawn either in my deployment zone, like I was chasing them down through the city, or they would spawn in one of 4 buildings. And these are ruins where they've been kind of holed up in the collapsed basements. They've been hiding and waiting for relief from the Imperials. So there was a mechanic for sabotaging the buildings and destroying what was left of them. And when you did that, the people inside would scatter like rats and run out and try to get towards the Imperial deployment zone, towards the Imperial lines. And the way he set it up, both of our games were within like 1 or 2 points of each other.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
In my case, the attacker, I think in both games, the attacker won. So I think it was a Xenos victory in both cases. I don't really remember Dave and Tucker's game, but in Kendrick and mine, I was victorious, but only by like the slimmest of margins. So I really think he set up a great scenario. My whole goal was to capture the people, not kill them. So I could shoot at them, and if I hit, they're removed, and I would get 1 victory point for each person that was removed. And he would get 5 points for each person that was able to leave the battlefield edge.
Got it. Okay.
He got points for holding the objectives or the ruins, and I got points for burning the ruins. And I'm not going to, it was 5 points for holding each one at the end of each turn, and then 20 points for burning them. In our cases, it worked really well because on Tucker and Dave's side, both of them had kind of slow armies facing against each other. And on my side, it was Kendrick's White Scars versus my Drukhari. Both of us had fast armies. So I could see there being some kind of disparity if we had swept it up. But the way it worked out was amazing. So kudos to him for that really great idea for a scenario.
That is cool. I need to go through and look at that Beyond the Veil pack a little bit more. I just know that it's got a ton of scenarios, and his rebuild sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's a really good idea. Speaking of that, I cheated on you and went on the Splinter Mind podcast to talk about the Beyond the Veil mission pack. It was a really nice time.
Y'all did that at like 8 a.m, which,
EST.
I worked until late. Yeah, EST has been 7 for me, and man, I'm pretty sure I was still asleep at that time.
No, I would like to say that that's my excuse. That I was being kind to you. I simply forgot. But you probably also would have been sleeping.
Yeah, I was definitely asleep. I think because you sent them that you mentioned it later, and I was like, yeah, I was asleep. I'm good.
Also, it's more fun that I get to say that I cheated on you.
Oh, yeah. Well, whatever. I won't
make any. Some games.
I'm not going to make any comments that I have to beep. So, all right.
You have a game coming up?
Socially distanced, masked Inquisition Wars returns this week. We're ready to get back to that.
It's so excited to hear that.
Yeah. We did one text adventure over Discord during lockdown, and at some point we're going to bring the guys on for a kind of a not like a warrior lodge, but kind of discussion of how we do stuff. But the end of that text adventure, my Inquisitor and her captain, guard, whatever you want to call him, bodyguard, they got teleported off of a station onto some ship at the edge of the solar system for the system. So we had to sit there and figure out what happened to my Inquisitor. So I'm not sure which Inquisitor I'm going to be playing with on Thursday, if it will be that one or if it will be my new Inquisitor Stag. So
let's hope it doesn't involve masking tape.
Yeah, let's hope.
Hold on, I have a sound effect for that.
Oh, you do? There good.
See, I'm your Foley guy this episode.
So, but yeah, my Inquisitor Stag is the Victoria Miniatures Adepticon Inquisitor.
Yeah, she's great.
So I'm pretty stoked about that. This will be her first game, so I expect her to die because she's fully painted. So, yeah. All right. So, Adam, are we ready for?
Oh wait, hold on. Mr. Squeaker's going to say it. Did you hear that? He said Beyond the Fringe.
Okay. I can work with that.
My Beyond the Fringe is early butt screenings.
Yeah, I'm
right.
I totally agree with you.
So we have a family history of butt cancer and cancer in general. So I decided, well, my aunt was getting on me about it because she had some real scares, and she was after the age, but still she had some issues with it. And then it really got to me because then some celebrities got it.
Yeah.
Chadwick
Boseman.
Yeah, Chadwick Boseman dies at 43. 43 of rectal cancer? That's not great. So I decided to go in and have it done. The prep was awful. You drink that stuff and you're just pooping forever. It is terrible. But the actual procedure is not bad because you're asleep. But they found 5 precancerous polyps. One of them was probably going to kill me by 50. So you guys need to go out and do that. You need, if you're adopted and don't know your history, or if you know there's a history, you need to go and do it early. They should be switching that out to 45 or if you have a history 40, because people are dying at like somebody else just died. I forgot who it was, but another young black man died at the age of 42. And I bet if he'd gotten the tests at 40, he would be alive right now. So keep that in mind, guys. Now, Jason, I see you have a very interesting Beyond the Fringe.
Yeah, long reach staplers, but that was really more of a joke geared towards you. So
yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes you need to staple something that's beyond reach, and the only way to do it is either with a really long reach stapler or some kind of scope with a manipulating end on it and a camera.
And a microscopic or a very, very tiny flamethrower too.
Yeah, tiny. No. It's a lasso. It's a monofilament lasso, right? Right.
Wow, that's very Drukhari of you.
Right.
Whoa.
I actually don't think it's monofilament, but it's a really, really small hot lasso or cold lasso. It can actually be super cold too. See, this is all stuff I learned recently. It's just fascinating.
Well, it's actually that was the joking one I had, although it's not really a joke. It's I am concerned about you.
Joke. Fine. If
but
we're
my
not
real
laughing,
Beyond the
we're crying.
Fringe. Yeah, that's. Actually, my real Beyond the Fringe is the vaccine.
Oh yeah.
Yesterday they had the was it the nurse in New York, and she was the first one to receive that. And I'll be honest, I got teary eyed.
Yeah,
I was just there thinking,
good for her. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's not much gets me teary eyed, but damn, that did it. I was just like, okay, yeah,
it's great. So, I'm so excited. Yeah, it's gonna be a good year, Jason. It's gonna be a good year.
I hope so, because I am so tired of isolating.
I don't need nice things to happen. I just need things to be status quo, and I'll be happy. So for the Astropathic communique, we've got Death Guard incoming, and which is really interesting, and it looks super thematic so far. Like they're switching the Feel No Pain to straight up damage reduction across the board.
Okay.
Which is really cool. It's a lot less rolling, but I think more importantly, rolling isn't a big deal. It is what it is. For match play, though, a lot of things it's all based on like what you can plan ahead for. It's really weird. Like, and you can't plan on a 5+ roll, but you can plan on -1 damage.
Right.
So I think that's important. It's not really to me, but it sounds like something that's important. But straight up damage reduction sounds great. I'm going to do a little conjecture here. A lot of folks are wondering what's going to happen with Poxwalkers. I think it would be really neat if Poxwalkers were like a 7+ save, but 2 or 3 wounds each. How cool would that be?
Oh, okay, yeah.
If they're just they're just big, fat, bloated meat bags, like mushy meat bags, and they just had 2 or 3, even 3 wounds. I think that would actually be kind of neat. The way they look, though, I think 2 is pushing it. 3 is never going to happen. But I think that would be a neat way to do it. I don't think we have a unit like that in the game yet. Maybe Nurglings, kind of. Those are a swarm.
Maybe.
But that's the closest thing I can think of. That's like big, fat, no save to speak of, but lots of wounds. I think that would actually work really well for that aesthetic.
I'm trying to think of any. Everything I can think of has an invul save,
right?
So
like orc mobs, but even they're like 4+ save. So I think that would be a fun little niche for them to be in, and to have that multi-wound low save type thing.
Well, like I'm just running this through my head. Then, run them at like 2 wounds each. Therefore, Space Marine Bolter will take 1 down, but like a guard lasgun won't. It needs to have that 2 shots. So that would that would give a nice, dramatic visual.
Yeah, right. Like where they're just like you're blowing holes in them and they just keep coming.
Yeah.
Cool. Also, we've heard tell from Black Library that the Indomitus Dark Imperium series is actually being adjusted. The lore is being adjusted to better fit the new narrative.
Okay.
So remember how we were like all confused about why, like in Dark Imperium, the setting is after the Indomitus Crusade is over, like 100 years to 150 years after it started. Mm-hmm. And I guess they're adjusting that. I tried doing some research. They might have said what more specifically what that's about. But I didn't catch it. So I'm sorry if folks know more than we do. I know people kind of, it's like, screaming into the ether, like, no, you got it wrong. But so I'm not going to assume anything. I'm just going to say that there's going to be some reset. I don't think they've ever really done that before.
Well, they've opened up the possibility of doing that with, Gulliman stating these people can't even tell time right.
Right.
It's one of the novels, Yeah. So, that allows a little leeway. That allows a lot leeway.
Like some wiggle room. Yeah, you can say that the first printings of this it was all unreliable narrator. Unreliable observer. So yeah, I'm fine with it. If they need to course correct the lore, then that's totally fine. But it doesn't change anything from Psychic Awakening. Psychic Awakening is definitely Indomitus Crusade content, and it's spread out throughout the Indomitus Crusade, those stories. So just keep in mind that's all kind of evergreen stuff. And I do hope folks who are reviewing the new Dark Crusade editions will give us an idea of what changes there are, because I wouldn't expect everybody to go out and buy those books again if they've already read them. Or do. It's up to you guys, because there are sweet new covers to match. So there's that. So this
I haven't recently bought. Go ahead.
No, I was going to segue.
Oh, sorry. I haven't bought physical copies in about a year, not because I don't want to support Black Library. It's just I need to move again, and I don't want to move that many more books, if that makes sense. Like, I'm still getting them through my reader, but my iPad, but that's kind of like I'm just buying the books that I know I need physically, so or that don't show up as
gifts,
EPUBs or whatever, like the Beyond the Veil mission pack. So
I can definitely see that. However, I'm still on the market for 5th edition codexes and 6th edition codexes. I think I do want to build up that library and trim it all into one spiral bound book. I think that's the more I think about it, the more I want to do that. So, if anybody has a collection out there and they want to ship it to me, I'll pay shipping. If it's filling your shelves, I don't want to pay for it, but I'll pay for shipping. All right, guys, we're going to move into our main segment, which is all about the new Flashpoints in White Dwarf. Mr. Squeaker says we'll be right back.
Come here, boy, get the ball. Come on, Max, get the ball. Mom, Max won't get the ball. He's lazy.
I think I know why your Zote is being lazy, Jenny.
Why, Mom?
Because you forgot to feed him his Zotabix today.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Zotabix contains all the nutrients and random animal parts a growing Zote craves. It not only provides our Zote with the energy it needs to play with you and protect our home, but it also keeps its chitinous shell fresh and shiny.
Oh, boy. I'd better feed Max his Zotabix.
Yes, you had.
Zodabix is made in part from grade
Max,
A
time for
Astra
dinner.
Militarum post-engagement byproduct and is infused with 112 essential vitamins
No,
and
Max,
minerals
down.
harvested from your Zot's natural habitat, the finest desert depths.
Ah!
Zodabix is available in any shopping center on worlds where Zots are allowed or where the Imperium's inexorable influence has not yet reached.
Hello, everyone. The Masters of the Forge is now a proud member of the NPC, the Narrative Podcast Consortium. Our aim is to inspire your hobby through the rich lore of the 41st millennium. If you enjoy our podcast, then make sure to check out these other awesome shows, where you can get coverage on campaigns, Black Library, and all kinds of general topics of the 40K background.
The NGC 40K podcast also provides in-depth campaign coverage, audio dramas, and free-flowing narrative campaign creation.
The Adeptus Terra podcast also features in-depth discussions of the lore and commentary on the hobby.
Oh, and sexy English voices.
Oh yeah.
The Masters of the Forge brings the world of 40K to life on your tabletop, with discussion on the lore, backed up by narrative-themed rules and battle reports.
Of course, this is only a fraction of the topics covered by the podcasts of the NPC. Please tune in to find out more.
Greetings, mofos!
Are you out of George Dickel number 8, staring at a broken chess machine?
Don't want to spend the rest of the year tied to that couch?
Well, why don't you head on over to the 1 Hour a Night Facebook page and see what exciting stuff is going on there. It's a place to post all your daily progress in the hobby grind, as well as receive and give positive feedback. Also, there are usually a few interesting challenges going on.
That's right. All you have to do is search for 1 Hour a Night on Facebook. That's numeral 1 hour a night, all one word. Blood serum tests will be administered prior to approval.
Se til helvete og kom dere vekk. Det ikke en bikkje, det en slags ting. Den imiterer en bikkje, men det ikke det. Kom dere vekk, idioter!
What he said.
Oh, we've reached level 6. Primary content. Welcome. Please shop often. Jason. So, what's a flashpoint? Okay, first of all, this episode has... Oh, we don't have a script for this one because it's not like a heavy lore episode. This is going to be just a chat, which we always do. Horrible at those. Anyways,
we don't always do horrible at them. I mean,
I'm
sometimes
sober,
we run
so
them
it's a problem.
Well, the issue is that like we run them kind of like over curbs and dragging the undercarriage, and at some point, at least one of the doors falls off. At least one. You know.
Expect 2d6 pregnant pauses while one of us expects the other one to say something, and we don't say anything. It's fine. Yeah. It's fine.
It's going to be great.
Here. Yeah. So what's a flashpoint?
All right.
Flashpoint is a system that they've put in White Dwarf to do ongoing narrative content. And they want to tie it in with releases. It looks like, which that makes sense. That's what White Dwarf.
Oh yeah.
It's for giving validation to the actual products that Games Workshop produces. The ship has sailed on White Dwarf talking about Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, guys, let's.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? It's like, but everybody pines for all that. It's like, well, they don't do tips on building your own scratch-built terrain. Well, that's because they have terrain for everything now, so they don't have to tell you how to scratch-build a ruin. You know why?
That's right.
They sell ruins.
Yeah,
there's plenty of tutorials out there for building your own scratch-built ruins.
It's funny that you brought up the D&D stuff because. Way back when I was a kid, I have a whole bunch of White Dwarf issues before they started doing I think Rogue Trader was happening, but like I have an old White Dwarf that like has a bunch of D&D stuff in it, and Doctor Who miniatures.
Yeah.
So
or a mixture of 40K and Doctor Who because I think there's one old Hammer model that has a Space Marine torso on a Dalek body. I don't know.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think so.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, but we can agree. We can all agree on one thing, and that's this: the Flashpoints are value added to White Dwarf magazine. This is what people want.
Yes.
This is what we should be asking for, and this is the kind of thing we should give positive feedback on, because it's good quality content that adds texture to our own games, or at least gives us ideas to add our own texture.
That's right.
I'm going to ask for a pause. I forgot to close the door. So it comes in the shape of rules, custom rules, scenarios, and Crusade rules, lore as well, and art. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how unique this art is to the Flashpoints, but still, it's got it. It really helps bring to life the area that the Flashpoint is being conducted in.
That was what was interesting as I was reading through it. There were a lot more lore articles than, I don't want to say than normal, but just like I kept reading through it, think, I was looking for, all right, where's the rules? We can kind of talk about that. Where's this? And there was just all these pages, and there was like really some great stuff. We're gonna talk about some things in this Flashpoint that some of the planets are super cool, almost to the point of they're more than what I think this is. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree, and we don't as of this recording, we don't have the third issue in the Flashpoint, and I assume in the third issue we're going to be focusing on at least two other planets. The first issue is a general overview of the situation in the region. This Flashpoint Argovon system details this part of the Indominus Crusade called the Argo Von Crusade, aptly named, which is located in the Pariah Nexus. I love that it's written in the first person by Historitor Alphys Rekaric Smeeg, who's I'm pretty sure this guy's going to get executed by the end of like his last journal entry is going to be, and I was also executed because I sneezed when the Lord Commander was talking or something, because
it'll shut off and be closed by orders of the Inquisition.
Yeah, right.
There's a ton of Inquisitors like running around in this in here, so I figured that this someone's dead from an Inquisitor.
Right. Yeah, clearly. Yeah. And the system was like, there's a whole background for the system, and this is the kind of thing I like to see, and what is really nice when someone who's running a campaign writes into their campaign. So it was founded by a rogue trader who named the system after herself. Not only did she name the system after herself, she named one of the planets after herself. Her name was Foronica. It sounds like one of the names that you might teach, Jason.
We're going to leave that one alone.
Over 8,000 years ago. Imperial records describe the family as like this disreputable band of miscreants who have no money. But
that was funny.
The internal history.
Yeah.
They're like, what did she describe herself as? Or they describe her as the strongest of the strong, the tallest of the tall, and the bravest of the brave. And nobody's arguing with them because like the people are so fanatical about this matriarch that later on, like in the TRO section where it describes like all the forces, like there are untold numbers of pilgrims of Fornica the Brave or Veronica the Brave.
Wow. Yeah, that description was really funny. It reminded me of the first Men in Black movie, where there's that part where Will Smith talks about, he's making fun of the other recruits.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's
yeah.
That is a pretty interesting thing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice.
Pilgrims of Veronica of the Brave.
So go ahead. Sorry. It's really nice to have that texture. To have just a little, just write a couple paragraphs of history for the system that your players are fighting over, or maybe if you're just doing a solo crusade, it's just something to give you a reason to fight. It's amazing after just one little detail, this world we're fighting over is an agro world. That just by saying that, you've set into motion things about that planet and about the scenarios you're going to play and about the kind of people who will attack that world, the reasons why you're defending it. Everything starts falling into place as you add these little details. And that's why people do it. So because of the stilling, there weren't any distress calls coming from anywhere in the Nexus, and we knew that from the Pariah book. But Arghavon did. So because of that, a task force was sent there, and even though the whole battle group was kind of moving methodically to avoid, they're not going to just jump into a system and wreck house because.
Right.
They don't know what to expect. So they're taking it a little bit at a time to avoid their supply lines being cut off by any enemy they might skip ahead of. So they're just kind of going from system to system slowly. But in the case of Arghavon, since there was actually some kind of distress call sent out, a big force was sent there to liberate the system. Let's go over. You want to go over the planets, Jason?
Yeah, let's go over the planets because I had a really funny joke about one of them. So,
well, then that by all means, you go through all of them. Then.
Okay, so we've got. Man, every time I look at this name, it just drives me nuts.
It's 4 on. It's like a 4 on Eric something.
Veronica.
Right.
It's almost like it's Veronica, but with an F.
I'm sure nobody in the United States has named their kid Veronica. I'm going to look up that fact right now while you tell everybody about the planet.
All right. So the founder's namesake world boasts of vast Noctilith resources. 2 million people sold their lives to win the Forge Shrine here, including many Tome Keepers, Space Marines, and Knights of House Boros.
It's the third. But sorry to interrupt you, Jason, but it's the third Google result is someone named Veronica on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go look at that later. Yeah. See if she's going to enroll in my class. So Saronic, a wild world with many dangerous fauna which terrorize the local population. Whenever I read about that, all I could think of was Audrey from Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors. I don't know. The world also features protected hunting lodges and has a huge acidic lake with a dolmen gate at the bottom of it from which march Necron hordes. I like that.
Yeah, this is a cool one. It's almost it's not a death world, but most planets are going to have some kind of, if it has life, it's going to have some kind of predator, right? So,
right.
Yeah, that's really neat that it's I would maybe calling it neat isn't so good, but it has this impoverished population who's constantly living in fear of the predators and the environment in general. And then interspersed throughout the planet, you have these super safe lodges where the rich people from Veronica come to hunt. Yeah, it's now that's texture right there. That's pretty good texture.
Yeah, it was really cool. I do really like as I was reading it last night. The whole dolmen gate at the bottom of that lake is just really a cool idea. But I also think it's because I live about 50 miles from a man-made lake that whenever they made the lake, they just basically flooded two towns, well, one town and a city. Mm-hmm. And I've actually visited that city whenever we had drought. So it just kind of reminds me of that. Yeah.
Well, Lake Sagandaga, they submerged at least one town, I think. To make
okay.
Yeah, that's a big lake now too.
All right, then we have Arghavon, which is third planet from the star, just beyond a partial asteroid belt. Heavily populated and boasts lots of more traditional ores. This is funny. The overmining has caused a huge fault line called Agoria's Fault, pun intended. And there's a nice Gene Stealer cult presence there for, all of your gaming needs.
Yeah, that's true. Not every world needs to have a freaking Gene Stealer cult on it, but if you have a player if you have a Gene Stealer cult player in your group and you have a Hive City in your system, there's no reason not to give them the opportunity to join in the fun.
That's right.
Now, the Goria's Fault, it was named after the lady who first detected that the overmining was going to cause a catastrophic seismic event. Mm-hmm. But you know how the people of the Imperium are. Of course they blame the messenger.
That's right. I think we talked about it later, but what was it? There's two different cults that are on this star.
Yes, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but there are two cults.
That's a little concerning. All right. Yeah. We then have Argalish, a world in which the system has a strong ecclesiarchal presence. Yeah. Which has been shown to resist the effects of the Nexus. So
yeah, that's where all the messages were coming from. There's such a strong God Emperor presence there.
That's interesting because I don't think we've seen something like that yet. So
not a huge source of it. No.
Yeah. The Necrons are aware of this fact, and they've been focusing their strongest attacks here. But of course, it's heavily fortified and heavily defended. This is, if I remember right, the description of this world was, cathedrals, chapels, basilicas. Even the hab blocks look like basilicas. Like it's very much an ecclesiarchal, world, for lack of a better term.
It's like a little it's kind of like the Eye of Terror, right? Like except for the Emperor, because it's like there's no warp anywhere hardly in the Nexus except here.
Yeah.
Here the light of the Emperor shines and you can get messages through.
Yeah, it's their very own telegraph office for the old days.
There's lots of people here. There's lots of like IG regiments and stuff here too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things I remember. The next world, I had made a joke before. I was making jokes before I even finished reading it. So it's an aggro world which has seen devastating reductions in output, I think down to 10% of what had been previous.
Yeah, it's not good.
Which has led to the execution of several planetary governors. And the first thing I thought of was the, plants like Brondo from Idiocracy. But
people
it's
are
clear
just, like, getting so apathetic from the Nexus.
So, but it is clear that it's an awakening tomb world because that's what we all want to live on. And the Stilling is strongest on this planet. Was it a huge force of battle sisters from many orders been deployed here to rally the locals? So it's definitely kind of a front line in the system. And then the last world, this one's the one that I think would be really a cool setting for a Space Wolf successor chapter. Like,
Yeah.
you know, the description was very similar to Fenris, not exact, but very similar.
It was similar enough for me to kind of roll my eyes a little bit. If I'm not gonna lie.
That's true. That is true. It was more of a descriptor of Fenris, but
Like
Icy World on the
right down to the weird orbit and everything. It's like, come on, guys.
Oh, I didn't read the weird orbit part.
Yeah,
I saw the other stuff.
Every year they have tectonic upheaval with yada yada. It's
okay.
pretty bad. Anyways,
All right.
yeah,
So, Icy World in the far reaches of the system with nomadic tribes hunting the local fauna and hive cities sitting on or near the world's thermal vents. The locals are hardy and faithful, and they've been largely successful at repelling the Necrons in this harsh environment. Later in the TRO, there's listed 219 scratch battalions of Hishreyan mountain men. So,
yeah, I think the author of like the campaign master of this one really loves the Hishreyans because they're real salts of the earth types, and I think Games Workshop and I don't know, maybe people in general love the salt of the earth types, and they're more manly, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would personally hesitate to be too romantic about that notion, but that seems to be an ongoing trend with some of the lore. Is like the people of the land are more human than the people of the city. So there's that. So those are the worlds, and you don't need to fill out a solar system with 10 worlds, 12 worlds, or dozens, which is like the Terran system with our gas giants, each with countless moons around them. Like you don't need to do that to yourself. This is a manageable number of worlds that they have here in this system, and it can make it a lot easier to adjudicate on the battlefield. And if you're doing this kind of thing for your local group, try to tailor it to like the terrain you have. If you don't have snow terrain, like winter terrain, and you don't plan on building any winter terrain, don't do an ice world. Like, or at least don't do one that you can play on or that you plan on playing on. Just keep that in mind too. Just be practical about it. Like, your imagination it's true, your imagination has no limits, but your terrain collection does have limits, I'm sure. Be practical about what you can do. Or plan to do more terrain. Make this the impetus you need to get your terrain completed. Let's talk about some forces that are here. So, this is kind of an obvious. They don't actually say everything is here, right? They've kind of got some wishy-washy. Well, there might be some Eldari. There might be, so this and that going on. But they don't.
I adore the Drakari Eldari lore that's a little bit later.
Okay. Yeah, it is pretty interesting, but there's not a lot of it's not like one of those campaigns where every faction is here, right? But it can be massaged if you want to massage it to switch up who's fighting whom or whatever. You can definitely do that. You could focus more on the Genestealer cult. You can focus more on, it could be like you don't have to just do the entire scope of the narrative. You can focus on a little part of it. So there are Imperial Forces, and they make sure to describe as much as they can to make it seem realistic. So they've got all the command staff described and all the Astra Militarum forces listed, and it talks about their disposition and like what they're armed with. Like there's artillery battalions, there's air wings and stuff. So if you wanted to run an Aeronautica Imperialis game in this campaign, you could. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. Literally nothing stopping. It doesn't talk about Aeronautica Imperialis specifically, but it actually, like the way later we're going to talk about how you gain points in the campaign, these Warzone points. There's nothing saying you can't do an air battle and count that as one of the games you win for points.
Yeah.
Same thing with Apocalypse. You could do an Apocalypse game and count that as like a win in the campaign.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Lots of Adeptus Sororitas here. You know, we've seen, you know, as the plastics have come out, there's been a lot more representation of Adeptus Sororitas in our lore and in our campaigns, which is good. Which it stands to reason. There's way more Sororitas than there are Space Marines, like numbers wise. They're going to be everywhere, especially in a system with a very important shrine world on it. There's House Terran is here, House Boros is here of the Questor Imperialis, and also Baroness Mariana of House Mirador. We have Adeptus Mechanicus, which, you know, anytime you have an Indomitus Crusade battle group, every Imperial force could be there.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
You have an excuse to have pretty much any kind of Adeptus that you can think of there, including the Adeptus Astartes, including the Tome Keepers, Obsidian Jaguars, Atlantean Spears, and Deathwatch. The Tome Keepers are described in issue 458, and they are they're the White Dwarf chapter. They're a chapter that the White Dwarf team has developed as an example of how to create your own Primaris Space Marines chapter. And they kind of went with a lore-based theme for them. So like the cover of White Dwarf 458 is a Primaris Marine standing with a big old axe. He's got a book for a banner, and a chapter serf is holding up a book for him to read on his left, and then another one is holding up a book for him to read on his right. And everybody has purity seals and banners and books. So these guys really like to read, which is interesting. It's a really cool idea. I think it's a neat little idea for the White Dwarf, chapter to have all that stuff. That's neat.
Yeah.
There's also Inquisition. Obviously, we have Ordo Xenos there. Ordo Machinium. So
yeah.
Ordo Machinium oversees the Mechanicus and is concerned with the reintegration of recovered STCs and the rare adaptation of alien tech. That is fascinating.
Yeah, I was looking through the notes, or not the notes, through the magazine, and I saw that they had the Machinium and the next one, Astra, and I never heard of them before, so I did a little bit of research, and it's like, this is the except for like the Inquisition Codex from 2013, this is the only other time they've ever been mentioned. I was like, this is cool.
Yeah, this one that's described the Ordo Astra. They oversee stellar cartography, which you would, one might think, well, why would you need an Inquisition force for that? And like, well, there's a giant scar across the sky that's driving everybody insane.
Yeah.
So, and now we have entire zones of stilled space that no one should know about. So, yeah, it stands to reason that even the astronomers in the Imperium would have kind of a Inquisition representation.
Yeah.
Part of their business probably is going around and executing people who are astronomers just for knowing what's going on. But I'm a little jaded from this article. So, yeah. What were you saying, Jason?
Oh, I was going to say is on the Machinum, or however it's pronounced, Machinum, I don't know. one of the things I really found interesting was it says concerned with the reintegration of recovered STCs and the rare adaptation of alien tech.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that caught my attention. And the other one was the Inquisitors of this Ordo often accompany Mechanicus archaeology teams. And that's a huge narrative idea for a Mechanicus army.
Well, they're making sure that the Mechanicus doesn't commit tech heresy.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly, as I'm reading that, I've got a AdMech army that I haven't painted because I just don't even know, where to go with that. But now I've got some ideas on what I could do with it. So I did talk to one of my locals, Keith, about his Inquisitor, because the Inquisitor that he has, actually both of them I built, that has a lot of AdMech modifications, and maybe this is his Inquisitor's Ordo. So yeah, see, this research does help our gaming. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Well, or hurts it. I mean, or helps it. I'm not sure.
Talk to my wallet about it. Let's see what it has to say.
You know what? Don't listen to your wallet. It's an asshole. You do you, pal. We also have got some Imperial Navy assets, obviously.
Yeah.
The next thing is we've got some Xenos there. It doesn't go into multi-page detail about the Xenos forces. I guess they'd prefer to leave it a little open-ended. We've got the Zerikon dynasty, which is the Silent Kings dynasty, and Oroshk dynasty, which I didn't look up prior to this. But there are a lot of different dynasties that are listed, and the the historian says that the other dynasties, you can't really tell the difference between them and the Caesaricon a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You can see some minor differences, but it almost looks like the Caesaricon have absorbed these other dynasties, which is exactly what's happening. There's also scattered reports of Eldari.
This is my favorite.
But of course, the IG troopers who reported these Eldari sightings were executed for, quote, spreading malicious rumors, and, quote, lying to a superior officer, and, quote, wasting a superior's time. Of course, they were all telling the truth. And these Eldari were from Craft World Alatak and the Mask of the Dreaming Shadow. I hate the Imperial so much. So terrible.
What makes me laugh is in the lore it says records suggest between 4,000 and 5,000 officers and troop were executed.
Yeah, I mean, he does go on to say, yeah, it was probably the right thing to do because you never know. Like, what do you mean you never know? Like he said, it's better to have executed these guys, accidentally, than to not execute the right people at a later time.
The Imperial.
I guess to make an omelet you have to break a few eggs type thing. Like, I don't know. It's kind of messed up, dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, we shouldn't be surprised. We've done 155 episodes talking about how terrible the Imperium is, but these guys,
yeah,
how incredibly wasteful. Anyways, there's also the Gene Stealer cults, the cult of the Four-Armed Emperor and the cult of the Blessed Raised, implying at least two patriarchs are here.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up. Was bad enough.
This issue has a cool 2-page spread showing the mustering forces of the Imperium, which is super awesome. It's a old John. I don't know how old it is actually. Got a big 2-page spread of John Blanche's depiction of the Adeptus Mechanicus marching to war. And it is super great. I love it.
Yeah.
I could look at this all day and pick out all these little details that you can see. But if you're looking for AdMech inspiration and an excuse to kit bash chaos, maybe Necron and AdMech to make a super awesome John Blanche style AdMech army, go ahead and look at that page. If you don't want to do that, you should skip it because you're going to want to anyways. But it's also, a lot of the new art, like the Necron art, is really cool. I like what they're doing with color here. And, a lot of this stuff is computer now, right? Like, so that, the fog of war looks really cool, but it shows these towering structures that come along with the Necron invasions and their architecture. It could be really helpful for creating your own Necron terrain, because before you really didn't get a lot of that. There wasn't a lot of architecture shown in these codexes, at least as far as I recall. So this kind of stuff is really nice to see. So when you're developing your own campaign. Now we kind of do have like a little section on, doing your own thing, but just keep in mind all these little details that we're talking about right now are probably not things you're going to like lift specifically from this Flashpoint, right? Like most people aren't actually ever going to use this thing in its entirety, even though it was probably intended to at first,
right?
Until COVID happened.
Yeah.
Right. So this might have been something that they were doing for an event in stores, which they're definitely not doing now. So,
I could see this being done in the Warhammer stores.
Right. Yeah. You could do it wholesale, but I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But what I would do is use it as a template for doing your own thing. And every time there's an edition change, you kind of start questioning like, well, should I do things the same way as I did before? Or should I switch it up? In a lot of ways, I think this is not going to be much of a change for the way people do things in groups or individually. So let's see for the rules. Let's talk about the general campaign rules first. First of all, they imply that there's someone leading the thing, a campaign master, the person to whom everybody reports their points to, and they're going to keep a spreadsheet or whatever of all the details. Someone who's detail oriented and organized, which is absolutely why I was always the one running campaigns, because I'm super detail oriented and organized. I am neither of those things. Then they suggest that you form alliances in the group. I don't know if we'd ever have enough people doing this to have more than 2 alliances, but it suggests that if you have over 11, like 11 or more, to have 3 alliances, and 16 or more to have 4 alliances.
I think 2 alliances is probably the number that most people are going to go with.
Yeah, it'll be Necrons and Imperium, or Necrons and everybody else. Or, it's hard to say. Folks will still want to use whatever armies they want. So if you have a large group, it'll be hard to stick to the narrative selected factions. But with the new Necrons Codex, it might be possible to do Imperium versus everybody else, and everybody else being like mostly Necrons. I could see that happening. As you go through, you're earning points for your alliance. So you earn Warzone points for winning games. You also win Warzone points later on. We find out you win them for performing actions and stuff, like completing some agendas. So that's really important. You're actually actively getting, in some cases you'll be doubling your Warzone points just by completing that agenda.
That's one thing I found was interesting as we were reading over it. I mean, because sometimes in a campaign, you know, if you go through like in phases, like this recommends 3 phases, and by the time you're at the end of the second phase, sometimes someone's run away with it, and there's literally no way they can come back in the third phase. And one thing that we notice in here is that in the first phase, you get strategic points at like kind of +1 for those. You know, that it's one of those things that's sliding scale, so that you're in phase 3, there's still a chance to pull it out. You know,
right.
That's really important.
It's really good. So yeah, that does bring us to, so like, just really quickly, you know, the bigger the game you play, the more points you win for Warzone points. And you could even, like, it goes up to Onslaught, but you could say, well, if you want to play Apocalypse, or if you want to play a Night Joust, even if you want to do any of that, if you want to do Be It Battlefleet Gothic, go ahead. You could just do an equivalent Warzone points based on the size of the game. But yeah, like you said, it's a sliding scale. No matter how much you took away the first phase by, doesn't matter. Because after the phase is over, you score strategic points. Strategic points you get for if your what do they call them? Alliance wins the phase, they get 1 strategic point in phase 1 and 2. So the most you're going to have in phase 1 is 1 strategic point. There's no other way to get strategic points. Then in phase 2, you could the winner earns 1 strategic point. And then in phase 3, the winner earns 2 strategic points.
Yeah. Which,
you know, I think that's a great way to do it, because that means everybody's in the game, even until the end. Everybody's in the game, especially if you have more than 2 allegiances or alliances, because then you could have one person with one, and then one person with another. Even the person with 0 can come back and win it because they clinched
I hadn't
the
thought
final.
about that.
Yeah, this is a really cool way to do it. Now that doesn't mean that the person who is leading isn't going to win, because they might still win. And they'll win over the other person that only has 1 point. So I thought that was really ingenious. And if you go more than 3 phases, try to think of that. Think of a way to make sure everybody feels like they're still in it if they are behind. Like, even if somebody has 2 points, the best they can do is tie if someone else wins the 3rd phase. And again, nobody's going to run away, because the amount you win by per phase doesn't matter. All that matters is that you won. So
I like that. I really do like that a lot.
Yeah, it's really smart. It's a really smart way to do it. It's a little complicated having to keep track of 2 different points types, but in this case, I think it's essential, and I think it is clean. Once you think about it for a few minutes, you're like, yes, that's not hard to think about. So we've got some new theaters of war. We love theaters of war around here, and on Masters of the Forge, we're big fans of theaters of war. The first one is the Arghavon Fault Zone. Sorry, whose fault is it? I think it's probably Jervis Johnson's fault. I'm going to blame him. We're somewhat familiar with this. We actually gave big props to the mission in Pariah that's similar to this, where you have like 6 objectives on the battlefield, and 2 of them activate, and then there's like a line of damage in between them.
Yeah.
In this case, instead of having them numbered 1 through 6, they're numbered 1 through 3 twice. Yeah. So you just roll a D3, and then between those 2, there's a fault line that's active.
I really like this mechanic.
Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do it the way they did it. So just keep it right. So right now, you can either suffer mortal wounds, you can have your movement reduced, or both.
Yeah.
And you can
there
also
was damage
have
in one of them.
yeah. There's lots of damage, a little bit of damage, or no damage, but your movement suffers regardless. And also you can be shaken, which you get penalties to attack. But you could also use this system for other weird things. Imagine this on a like a demon world, where certain emotions are rampant, and depending on which nodes are active, could either cause one kind of emotional effect or another kind of emotional effect on the units that are caught between the resonation like stones or whatever. So you could be on a corn aligned planet, and whenever it falls on, whenever the resonation is active, all units get +1 attack or something.
Mm-hmm.
Something simple like that. They have like some kind of rage, or each node could represent a different god, which go nuts, right? With the different combinations and permutations that can come from those points connecting to each other.
There's all sorts of things that could be not programmed, but could be put together. Fun effects. I've got a couple of ideas. I'm just sitting here.
Yeah, like maybe like Tyranids too.
Yeah,
like weird.
Oh, like disturbing the spore colony.
Yes. Ooh, spores. Yeah, you could do like weird, like they'd be these giant like myconids, mushrooms that give off weird spores, and they're just active for a turn.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff. Or like we did with the Mechanicus, they could be like energy nodes that shock you with electricity.
Yeah, I remember that. That was fun.
The Arghavon Fault Zone only has that one environmental effect. The Saronic Lakes looks a lot like the ones from Pariah. It says to use a lot of water-based area terrain. If you don't have any, that's okay. When we used to play at my house, sometimes we would put my little water tokens. Like I had these felt water cutouts. I would put them in buildings, in ruins, and we would say that they're flooded basements.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes all you have to do is be a little creative. Sometimes we would put the felt water down, and we'd put trees on them, and suddenly they are swamps.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. That'll work.
Yeah. So the terrain, they have terrain types. One of them is treacherous waters, and you roll a dice to decide what terrain feature it is. They've got alkaline waters, deep water, and sinking sands. I thought that these ones were not super imaginative, but I guess we can kind of talk about them. Alkaline waters, it means it's acidic, probably because there's a dolmen gate under the water for some reason. If you're getting cover from the terrain feature, improve the AP of 1. So if they shoot you, the acid gets in.
Oof.
Yeah, that's not great. I mean, you're probably going to try to use the terrain for cover anyways, but you're going to get messed up.
Yeah.
Deep water, you can't actually put models on it unless they fly.
Got it. Okay.
I would probably also let hover units go over it, like repulsors.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Sinking sands. Vehicles can't go in the terrain feature unless they can fly, because they get bogged down. But people can walk over it just fine. Then we have a weather effects table. Which
this is interesting.
Yeah, it looks a lot like. So this one you roll every turn. At the start of each battle round, as the storm kind of moves around. 1 is Eye of the Storm, no effect. 2 is Sheeting Rain, minus 6-inch range on all ranged weapons to a minimum of 6, so your pistols are fine. And Strong Gales. Every time you advance, you have a -1 to the roll. And every time you charge, you subtract 2 from the roll. Which sounds it's a very simple table, but you know what? Sometimes really I think I misjudged this a little too much, this table, because you don't want 100 crazy effects on the battlefield, right?
Right.
This is very simple.
Yeah, and it can do some. I mean, it can really cause you to really have to look at how to do certain things with all these effects being, different.
Right.
You don't want to go through and have like Sheeting Rain that actually works with the alkaline waters, because then, or doesn't modify alkaline waters, because you don't want to have to deal with, does there spray of AP -1 stuff?
Amazing. That's a really good idea, though. Like roll a scatter die to determine the direction of the wind. And if you're
instead of like lake effect snow, it's like lake effect,
if you're downwind of one of those alkaline ponds, you're going to get sprayed with acid. That's a really cool idea, Jason. I like that one.
Yeah. Well, then you can have it as a -1, AP attack, which means, -1 AP, -1 damage. So you can let those. We were talking earlier about the rotting, zombies. This could actually like wear those out. That could be a fun little narrative,
right? Where it's boiling away their flesh, and they're just like skeletons walking.
Yeah, or to do what Phil would probably do, is like bomb that lake so that it causes all that spray to come up.
He's like, I'm just gonna bomb the libraries. I'm like, of course you would, Phil. Of course you would bomb the libraries.
And I'm sure Phil would look at that and do something similar. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to spray them all with acid. You know what, Phil? That's perfect. All right.
This one also has mysterious objectives. So it's got ancient archaeotech, submerged statuary, or unnerving sigils, which all do basically what you would expect them to do. Mostly to do with morale. Then we have the Hishreya Mountain Valley Theater of War, which just has 2 things. 1, a special rule, and 2, a weather effect. So you could have you have an effect that lasts the entire battle. It's not like crazy like superstorm coming through like the last one. This one is just an ongoing weather effect of either deep powder, frozen fog, or an ice shard blizzard. Deep powder reduces your advance to a maximum of 3 inches because you're just plunging through this deep snow.
Yeah.
Frozen fog stops you from shooting more than 24 inches away. So your maximum range for all of your guns is 24 inches. And cannot be targeted by any attacks, which I'm not sure. It cannot be seen and cannot be targeted by attacks. So that would also rule out some psychic powers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And the ice shard blizzard.
And maybe indirect fire stuff.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure because it would still be impossible to do range finding shots. So I could see why you might not be able to. You still might not be able to shoot with indirect fire.
Yeah.
So the ice shard blizzard. If you're moving too fast, you might take mortal wounds. The special rule for this one, though, is Avalanche Risk, which I found very interesting and something that I think you could add to pretty much any kind of terrain feature for different reasons. Like I could see this being used in Zone Mortalis as well. So every turn, or every time you make a shot with a blast weapon or an attack that does 4 or more damage to its target, make a note in that table quarter that happened. Like just do a little tick mark. Maybe have a D20 laying there to count it. And you do it from the table quarter that the attacker was in. So if you are standing in like the southwest table quarter and you shoot the northeast table quarter with a blast weapon, you took your side, not their side. At the end at the end of each battle round, we'll roll a d6 for each table quarter that has the biggest round number, it has the biggest tally. So whichever quarter has the biggest tally, you roll a dice. You add the current battle round to the dice roll. On a 6+, every unit in the tables in that table quarter suffers D3 mortal wounds because there's an avalanche.
That is cool.
And you keep doing that. You don't. Once the avalanche happens, you don't stop. There can be multiple avalanches. The cool thing is, I can definitely see myself jumping into someone's table quarter and just shooting, just to make that happen. Right?
Yeah, I could see it too. Yeah,
that's a really fun idea.
Yeah.
So Jason, I'm happy that we have some new theaters of war. I'm not sure I like any of them specifically, like as theaters of war in general. I said specifically in general, but like I like aspects of each one. So I definitely see myself stealing pieces for different narrative ideas. I especially kind of like the fracture tokens still for the fault lines. I like the different way they did it. Instead of the 1 through 6, the 2 sets of 1 through 3. It ensures you have a line of effect instead of the AoE of 1.
Right.
I like the idea of most of the time you're going to have someone from both sides be affected by it that way instead of just one blast on one group. So I like that.
Well, one thing we had mentioned earlier in the notes, I don't know if we mentioned it or not, that these flashpoints seem to be kind of a sandbox for the game designers to really experiment. And I think that experimentation shows up in that fracture. I think you're right, buddy. And they talked about how some of the stuff from this flashpoint ended up in some of the core rules, which I think they're talking about. I think they're talking about the Pariah Nexus mission pack. It's a cool idea, and I want to see more of this. This is what I'm here for. This kind of content. This is what I want. This is what's going to get me to buy White Dwarf. If I'm not, if I can offer that, it's definitely something I want to see more of. So, okay. So the way they're doing agendas is really interesting. And whenever somebody says really something's really interesting, they're actually saying, I kind of don't like it. And it's similar to the way they do it in the Crusade mission pack. I don't like it because it's adding new agendas without also adding them to a specific category. I don't like that. Oh yeah.
I'd rather each one of these go into a category that best fits what it does instead of creating a new Argovon campaign agenda category.
Right.
But that's really just a minor quibble. So all of these agendas exist in a new category called the Argovon campaign. agendas. So that means you can pick one of these when you play your Crusade games, but you're probably only going to pick one because all of them are faction specific.
Yeah, that
except
was
for one called Scavengers. All of them have something that you do at the end of the game. They're all end of game agendas. Either hold an objective here, hold an objective there, make sure this unit's dead, or make sure this unit survives. Make sure you're doing something at the end of the game, and you score experience points for doing so. Also, if your warlord does something, if your warlord achieves the same agenda, you're going to get one additional war zone point at the end of the game, win or lose.
Yeah.
We're going to give some examples, just so we're going to go into deep detail about each one. The one I picked is Flee the Sinking Ship, which is the one for Gene Stealer cults. Even in the midst of destruction and disaster, the Argovon Gene Stealer cults sense an opportunity to stow away aboard a fleeing transport and spread the word of the Four-Armed Emperor to the wider galaxy. Well, I like this one because it kind of makes me think so the Imperium's really beat in the F zone right now on the Argovon system, but I think even the Gene Stealer cults are like, well, we lost this
time
world.
to get out.
Time to go. Yep. They have no designs on surviving of, their little colony in the Argovon system surviving this attack.
So long and thanks for all the fish.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Literally. That's exactly what's happening here. You can only select this agenda if your warlord has the Gene Stealer cult's keyword. At the end of the battle, each Gene Stealer cult unit from your army that is wholly within 6 inches of your opponent's battlefield edge gains 1 experience point. So you're getting on board their ships. You're getting past them in order to get on their ships. If your warlord is wholly within 6 inches of your opponent's battlefield edge, you gain 1 additional war zone point. Very simple.
Yeah.
Very simple. Now, it's also not that easy when you really think about it, because not only do you have to be in position, you have to be not dead to get this.
Yeah.
So if you're playing a really bloody close combat game, you're going to have to really have the upper hand. But man, it's probably worth it to get that extra war zone point. When you're playing a campaign like this in a big group, man, it's tough to. You're going to want to perform. You don't want to be the one not contributing, right? It's tough.
Right.
So yeah, I would probably go for it every time. Which one did you pick?
So I picked the Forbidden Xenotech, although I did like the Scavenger agenda because I like the idea of the generic more than the other.
Just because we only have certain factions doesn't mean people aren't going to want to bring their faction. So this one's for them. I'll talk about it real quick. Each objective marker you control, select 1 unit from your army within range of that objective marker, and they gain an experience. So if there's 4 objective markers, it's a 1-for-1, right? So only one unit next to an objective marker can get the experience point. But if there's 4 objective markers, then 4 different units could conceivably get an experience point for doing that. Yeah. If you control more than your opponent, and your warlord is within range of an objective marker that is wholly within your opponent's deployment zone, you gain 1 additional war zone point. So that one's not easy, but
no.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is that as I was reading over them, the Adept Astartes don't have one of these agendas. Deathwatch does.
Oh yeah.
But the Spish Marines don't have it, so
they have enough of their own. Trust me. All right, so
that's true.
Forbidden Xenotech.
Forbidden Xenotech. Speaking of Blood Ravens, the tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus will fight with zealous ferocity to recover Xenos technology left on the battlefields of Arghavon. But whether they seek to destroy or study it is not known to outsiders. So you can only select this agenda if your warlord has the Adeptus Mechanicus keyword. Let's see, blah, 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 blah. Sorry. Objective, you basically, after deployments happened, your opponent must set one objective marker anywhere on the battlefield that's not within their own deployment zone. That marker represents the Forbidden Xenotech, but does not count as an objective marker for any rule purposes other than for this agenda. At the end of the battle, if that objective marker is controlled by the Adeptus Mechanicus from your army, each Mechanicus unit from your army within range of the objective gains 2 experience points, which, if you decide to go through and kind of blob up there, you could probably bring a lot of experience to your units. And this is interesting. If the warlord is in range of the objective marker, then you gain an additional war zone point. So this really does want you to push the blob out on that marker.
There is a faction specific agenda for the Necrons that does something similar.
That's the Activate Dolmen Gate. We can talk about that real quick.
No, I mean in their codex.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, there's one like that in their codex. So yeah, you see where this is going. They're all very much like this. There's no reason to read any of the other ones. They're all very, very similar. No. It's hold some things and make sure your warlord is holding some things too, therefore getting another war zone point. And I like that as a general idea for 9th edition group campaigns. Having the ability to generate more of those war zone points or whatever resource you're calling it throughout the game. But I think 1 is enough. I think 1 extra is enough. I don't think you want to do more than 1 per game above and beyond what you get for actually winning. So in issue 458, they go into the second phase. Yeah. And whereas before there was a more general fight on whatever world you want that looks interesting, use these terrain rules or whatever you have terrain for, use that. Whatever factions you have, use the ones that make the most sense for that area. But when you get on to phase 2, it starts narrowing the focus. In this case, it narrowed the focus on Hishreya and Veronica, which, again, I think that the author has a certain warm spot in his heart for the cold world of Hishreya, to the point where he wishes it was Fenris. Cool.
Oh.
You do you. And also, Veronica is really interesting because it's got the ancient Xenos tech on it, I believe. Yes.
One thing that's interesting about this issue on 458, the second phase, there is more lore in this issue than the other. There's a lot of short stories. There's a lot of most of the rules seem to be in the first issue, but over here you have a lot more really cool art. A lot of really cool art. Page 34, it looks like one of the flayed ones. That looks unbelievable.
This freaking page! I hate these people so much. I really hate these people. Like the whole story of Hishreya. Well, okay, so the Hishreya is the defense of Hishreya from the Necrons is commanded by Admiral Archibalda Tansk.
Yeah.
And she fights for months on this planet trying to save it. Hishreya is the they weren't given very much in the way of resources to pull off this defense because there's not a lot there compared to the rest of the planets. There's ore, which is fine, but right now it's not like they're building tanks to fight this battle. They can come back and get the ore later. And what are we going to do? Get some fish? We're not really worried about fish right now. We're worried about these other important. Okay, I guess there's people there. Whatever. Anyways, Admiral Tansk is not given as many resources as the other field commanders. And I mean, long story short, the world is overrun and she has to flee. She has to pick up everybody and go. And then she goes to other worlds and she puts her people, to the task of assisting in the defenses of those worlds, which she does turn the tide of battle several times. And then she is later on executed for cowardice.
Because the Imperium is terrible.
I wasn't really reading along. Anyways, she was executed for all the ridiculous reasons that you would expect her to be executed for. And finally, our narrator's like, that's kind of shitty. Why would we do that? Like the last issue, he's like, well, I mean, it was kind of okay to execute those people. Then all the times that someone is, or a group is executed, there's one where, it's Hishreya again, where the people are, they start losing a lot of their armor support, like in their transports and stuff. And they're just forced to march across barren rock, like wide open to aerial attack. And they're just gunned down to like 90. They suffer like 90% losses. The only people who survived are the people that found cover and hid from the attacks.
Right.
And all of those people are executed for cowardice.
Oh yeah, I was actually going to make that joke.
So, and the author's like, and the historian's like, well, I'll let you decide whether that was a good use of material to have those people executed. So honestly, issue 3 is going to be this dude like, what are we doing here? I'm probably going to get executed myself, or let's bring in the chaos. I'll bring in some chaos here. We'll sort this out.
I'm telling you, phase 3 is going to be, ordered closed by the Inquisition.
Oh, clearly. Yeah, this guy's, it's subtle too, right? You really don't see, I think you really won't see his gradual, disgust appearing until the 3rd issue. But once you go back, you'll be like, yeah, I should have seen that one coming. For the Hishreyan section, there's like a attack on some Dolmen gates, and there's a mission for it, which is really cool. So in the previous one, there weren't any missions. They were just expecting you to kind of use whatever missions you had. Probably the Beyond the Veil mission pack, which is full of amazing missions. I don't know if I should go over this entire thing, but there's a really cool, in this one, the attacker gets to use frost worms, which are these little it's stolen from Star Trek Enterprise. In Star Trek Enterprise on Andoria, they have these worms that are really hot and they burrow through the ice and they kill people. That's basically what this is. And that you have little tokens on the battlefield that represent the frost worms. So I like that. That's neat.
Yeah.
So actually it's objective markers on the battlefield, and then the attacker can turn them into frost worms instead. So the defender is scoring on objectives. The attacker is scoring on turning those objectives into swarms of frost worms. Fantastic. I love that. This is the first time we've seen scenario-specific stratagems since 8th edition. So each one of these has special stratagems and special agendas specifically for those missions. Veronica is a world with the Noctilith deposits that we talked about.
Yes.
And there's some really neat discussion between Tech Priest Zor and Major General Valdu in the lore section, or in the story section. I guess Valdu is well known for his ability to negotiate with other Adeptas, like internal communication, which I think for an operation like this, that's a really valuable trait, because you have all of these disparate groups of Imperial society working together. So he's working with this Archaeologor Tech Priest Zor. Damn it, I should have given you that one.
Yep.
And Veronica, unlike Hishreya, was given lots of resources to protect that world, because they didn't want the huge, vast source of Noctilith to get into Necron hands, which stands to reason. But it's not a traditional war. It's not like they're thinking too linearly. They're thinking too corporeally.
Yeah.
The Necrons are getting the Noctilith from somewhere anyways. A lot of their, they have it in a lot of their technology and their architecture. Do they really need all that Noctilith? Do they need it? Or is this world a ploy to keep the Imperials away from more important targets? For example, I honestly think that the prime targets in this campaign, I really think the main targets of this one are Eosau, which is the Awakening Tomb world, and Argalish, which is the Ecclesiarchy world, the Shrine world. Argalish is directly threatening the ability for the Necrons to create a stable part of the Pry-Nexus because of its faith. And ESO it's a tomb world. It's Awakening. That's where they're going to get. There's a lot of Necron souls wrapped up in that particular location. So I definitely, it's I didn't come up with this on my own. Obviously, in the writing, it's kind of hinted at that this might be, it might not be worth all the effort they're putting into it, because Necrons, they have Noctilith. Why would they care? And it's absolutely it's kind of a red herring on Veronica. Veronica is definitely a red herring in my opinion. So there's a mission for this one too. It's more traditional objective control mission with some interesting xenotech and machine, like they have like extraction machinery. So if you've got your Adeptus Mechanicus terrain with the cool tractors and cranes and stuff, you could use that. Because you can use it to do damage. Like the machinery lashes out at you and does damage to you during the game, which is really interesting. But I think that the Hishreyan mission is the most interesting, personally.
Yeah, I do too.
I forgot that they talked about this. I forgot that there was in this phase, they added new rules, new campaign rules, like a new resource called Xenotech.
Oh, yes, that's right.
So you can collect Xenotech during the game by winning battles and by using agendas and stuff like that. And if you play the campaign specific missions, you also get Xenotech, additional Xenotech on top of the ones you get for winning the game. And the Xenotech points unlock your ability to use Xenotech stratagems, of which there are 4. which each one of them represents some kind of weird Necron technology that you have at your disposal, which I'm sure the Inquisition is totally fine with.
Yeah, they're good with that. It's all good.
So this is part of us, part of the whole, like, game design, like playground, game design, like a space where you can try things out. Like, this is only going to be good for this phase, so use it this phase and tell me what you think. Like, it won't have as long as you design it right, it won't have too many lasting effects on the rest of the campaign because it's only for that phase. I think it's good to add it in the second phase. That way people are just getting used to the idea of playing in the campaign in the first phase.
Yeah.
And it won't have a, game campaign crushing effect in the third phase when it's wrapping up.
Right.
So
and that's always that's always the issue with new campaigns is, you gotta play at least a couple of games before you can kind of figure out, all right, what are these new rules and how does this all work together? So yeah, I think this idea of phases is really good.
Yeah, and making sure it's not too long, right? People get bored. Don't make it last don't leave it open ended. Say it's going to end here, right?
Yeah,
and that kind of segues into what we wanted to talk about. And that's creating your own Flashpoint or, three phase narrative. And again, I think this is very much more intended for group narrative play instead of just simple crusade, your own personal crusade content. And I see it as, with a lot of things, best represented with the same kind of thought process that goes into journalism: the who, what, why, where, and how. You got to talk to the folks who want to be involved in it. See what factions that they'll be playing.
Right.
Let that happen first. Don't, if like this, your own personal narrative, do whatever you want. But if you're with a group of people, and you're trying to get them included in your store's gaming, I wouldn't worry too much about what factions are in the campaign. You can certainly request people play certain things if they have multiple armies. Like if you wanted to do a Necron focused one, you have 3 people with Necron armies, you can ask them to play Necrons.
Right, yeah.
Even if they have other armies. Again, if they would say, well, I'd rather not, then they'd rather not. That's fine.
Right.
But try to weave the story around the forces that they're taking. Okay. I think as we were talking about before, looking at this, I really do think that you can try to use other systems like maybe even Necromunda. Battlefleet Gothic.
Yep, for Kill Team, 40K, any systems that have not been released yet.
Right. All you have, because all you're doing is counting wins. You're not worried about, and even if you wanted to do some way of getting people to earn extra Warzone points during the game in those other games, you can do that. You can do that. You can come up with some special rules for stuff that they have to do in order to score those extra points.
You could bring in Aeronautica also.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there's ways of getting different resources during that game, like bombing certain locations or taking off with... I think the Astra Militarum have ways of lifting off with objectives and stuff, too. So that kind of thing, they have landers and stuff, I think. So I think that's a fantastic idea. Get some of those narrative missions from Aeronautica Imperialis involved in the game.
Yeah.
I think the Arvis Lighter is also able to do courier duty. So why are the aggressors fighting each other? What's their goal? So once you know who it is, you can start to put together motivation. What's the time? Oh, go ahead.
Well, you'd mentioned earlier, like if you had 3 Necron players, maybe the why is that you have dynasties fighting it out.
True.
You know?
What if you have too many of even, like, say, okay, I want as many Necron players as I can, and like 6 out of 8 people want to play Necrons, and you're like, then that becomes really interesting. Maybe you do 3 groups, 1 Imperial and 2 Necron. How cool would that be?
Yeah,
I love that idea, Jason.
Yeah.
Then you have the when. What's the time frame? Is it going to span eras? I think we had one campaign in the past that we did that actually, I think it was called Enmity of an Age. I don't know why I remember that, but it was a mission that you played in the past with your character versus your character's nemesis. And then one you played a little bit like years later, and then one you played in the present. Like spanning hundreds of years, you could actually do that. Like you could actually do that where you have maybe after the first phase, you say, okay, you can actually split 100 experience points among all of your forces. Right. Pretend that they've been through multiple engagements and have come out the other end like super experienced. And now you're fighting one another on this different world. Like you could do that. Or you could say, this is literally 24 hours of fighting that we're expressing in 3 months of gaming. This is like
you could do that.
The first day or the last day of an invasion. And the entire 3 months that we're playing this campaign represents that last day. And this campaign is called The Last Day.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Or it's real time and you use real life events to shape the narrative of your campaign and piss off everybody. That's certainly not something I would do.
Colonoscopies for everyone.
Yes. The where. Okay, so again, as we discussed earlier, what's the terrain going to be like on these worlds? Do you want to just be on one world? Do you want to give people the option of multiple worlds? One world can be as diverse as multiple Star Wars worlds because every Star Wars world has a type, but Earth has lots of biomes. So keep that in mind. And where are you going to be playing in real life? Again, if your terrain is limited to GW ruins, well, maybe either use it as an opportunity to expand your terrain selection or only set it in cities.
Yeah.
Look through the wikis. The wikis have a pretty good. It's a lot easier than rummaging through old books because a lot there's. I think both Warhammer Wiki and Lexiconum have a list of. Well, probably also D4chan as well if you're into that sort of thing. Actually, D4chan sometimes has some obscure lore that is very true, but isn't on the other wikis actually. But anyways, they all have lists of worlds that you can pour through, sorted by type and everything like that. So, or you can do Control F. If you do Control F on that page and search for Agra, you'll find all that.
Okay.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind. You might be able to find something really interesting. Read up on the lore of that planet, find the original source, and read about it, and you might come up with some cool ideas.
Yeah. The Inquisition Wars that we're doing right now, I hope I get this right, but the system that's taking place in has been isolated from the rest of the galaxy by a warp storm. Like it's calm in the system, but outside the system, it's almost impossible to get in. So everything that's occurring is those are the only forces. There's no reinforcements coming from elsewhere. So
people can only get out. They can't get in. It's not the other way around.
They can't. They're stuck. I think
you
that
can't
the
get
Eldar
in
can
Aura.
get in. Yeah, the Eldar can get in because of the web light, but but no one else.
I was going to say it sounds a little bit like Castle Ravenloft.
Oh, where you can come in but you can't get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Okay, cool.
That might be that might be something in the future.
Stealing. Yeah. Hey. It's not stealing if it's the exact same story but in space. Right?
In space.
In space. So we talked a lot about the how as far as the rules are concerned, having those little interesting things you do during each phase to make them feel special, setting up that first phase as a kind of icebreaker / way for people to get used to the world you're creating, and then zooming in with the next couple of phases I think it's a really good idea that they had here. I think it's really wise to do it that way. It gives people a perspective.
Yeah.
I also think that it would be a really good idea to make sure anything you really focus on has a use, or else players are going to hook into it and you won't know what to do with it if you didn't already think about it. Like,
right.
Like I've created this huge tapestry of information, or this huge tapestry of visuals. And if a player wants to do something with one of those visuals and you don't have anything planned for it, that's on you, pal. And you're going to have to figure it out. So just keep that in mind. Don't leave a gun unshot is what I was thinking about that one. Make sure the threads of the campaign follow through every scenario and every event, and everything that happens serves the theme of your campaign. For example, the stilling in any Pariah Nexus campaign should feature, and it should color everything that you do in the campaign. People should be reminded of where they are when they play in the games, and it doesn't have to mean terrain. It can very much mean the rules, and like even the objectives and everything should in some way remind them of where they are. If you look at if you play a mission from your campaign and it could have been any game anywhere, you probably need to tweak it somehow to make it feel more special to that.
More
area.
in universe. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I like the factions. I like the specific agendas in the Flashpoints. I would say that's not entirely necessarily. You could just steal all of these and just do the same thing you could copy pasta these for different factions on different worlds for sure. Obviously,
I'm just wondering how many of the codexes will have. Like I have the Space Marines codex, but I don't have any of the other ones. If there's specific agendas in there for Crusade, for their own crusades.
They all have specific. Okay. They all have specific agendas for them, which is really nice. It's really nice to have. Yeah, make sure you're not copying things like, oh, this is like the one in my codex except easier. I guess I'm going to take this one. Right. Just be careful.
Well, I mean, I figured that the AdMech one, like the one I chose, whatever it was, Forbidden Xenotech, I would not be surprised if that was lifted directly out of the new codex.
Oh, yeah, that's
I would hope it would be there.
Yeah, that was. I don't know. That's some easy. That's shooting fish in a barrel there, Jason. I think you might be right.
That's fine. I'm good with that.
So both this Flashpoint and the Beyond the Veil mission pack have special resources that you can use to unlock things during your games. I like that idea. I especially like it if the special resource doesn't inflate your army outside of the campaign or outside of that region.
Yeah.
Because if you're playing a normal Crusade campaign with no special resources, you should be able to play somebody who has played in a campaign with these special resources, and you shouldn't feel like you're in the back foot because you did it.
Right.
So maybe your special resource points can unlock specific abilities or relics that are triggered only when playing in a specific area or against a specific opponent or something like that has to do with the campaign. Or in the case of the Flashpoint, it just unlocks the ability to use stratagems during future Flashpoint games, which I that's a fantastic way to do it. Clearly define your goals and the goals of the factions. Really early in the early stages of you creating the campaign. So, for example, if you say, don't just come up with a new location in phase 3 that they've never heard before that's super important. They would have heard about this super important place from the beginning.
Beforehand, yeah.
And when people like the fact that they can remember something you told them earlier that has an important effect later, because they get the feeling that you actually took the time to prepare everything ahead of time.
Yeah.
They don't feel like you're going off the cuff, coming up with nonsense off,
winging it.
Just to satisfy, winging it. Yes. You don't sound like you're winging it. And be honest, if you don't do this, you are probably winging it. And that's not very helpful. Take the time to do everything ahead of time, or at least get 90% of the way there ahead of time. There's nothing wrong with being inspired later, or especially if you're being inspired by something your players are doing or wanting to do. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But yeah, a lot of this advice comes from my experience with D&D and Storyteller and stuff like that, but also running some of these 40K campaigns. I do still am very much happy with Crusade itself as a system, to just running your own narrative, or at least kind of loose narrative like we're doing up in Queensberry, which I'm going to be honest, I really love that. I love that kind of gaming. So these big grandiose store-wide, a dozen people playing a campaign thing. Whew, I don't know.
It's hard to keep it together.
Sounds like a lot right now. Maybe 10 years ago I'd have been, 20 people in my campaign. This is so great. Right now, oh man, I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, COVID aside, even without COVID, I'm like, I don't know how I would feel about doing a huge thing like this. But if you're going to do it, I think they've given a really excellent roadmap for doing this yourself. Really like it. And I know, how many people are in your Inquisimunda campaign, Jason?
There's 4 of us currently.
And that's a good number, right? Like, that's what we got up in Queensberry. We got 4 of us, and that's just enough people to play someone different every once in a while, and few enough people where you can actually come up with a schedule and get together with everybody.
Well, the nice thing is that the way we're running it, it's based off of Kill Team rules, and Kill Team is, man, I hate to use this term, but it's the quote unquote gateway drug for 40K. You don't have to have a whole lot. I've actually kit bashed a couple of Inquisitors, people might be able to borrow those, or we're having people use, whatever they want as their Inquisitor, and then they can use other forces to round out the rest of their war band. And it's very low model count. It's there's 4 of us now. I could easily see someone coming in later and being involved in it. So that's important. I think that's really important. So
yeah, I'm with you. So I'm happy with it. I might use some of it in the future. I certainly am interested in hearing what happens to our poor historian. So we'll report back on that next month, I'm sure. Yeah, he's probably dead.
Yeah.
I don't know if our next episode is going to be a retrospective episode or an actual topic. At this point, I think a retrospective is probably for the best, because I'd like
put together quicker.
Yeah, we could. Quite frankly, we can put it together quicker. How about this? How about we do a quick retrospective, but we also do a battle report? We'll play a game and do a battle report for our campaign. Won't that be nice?
That'll be lovely. I'm ready to get a game in.
Yeah, let's do that. And then after that, for our first episode in January, we're going to be talking about Blood Angels on Crusade. We're going to do a Blood Angels Crusade episode. I hope to have a guest. I think we're like 80% sure we'll have a guest for that one, so that's good. For these faction ones, I think it's better to have a guest on than not. So we'll do that. I have unwittingly segued into the outro.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I'm going to fix that.
Well, get scrub. But until then,
play the game the way you want to.
Good times. We'd love it if you could give us a positive rating and review on iTunes.
If you'd like to keep in contact with us, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter by searching for Masters of the Forge. And you can follow our hobby progress on Instagram with the hashtag Masters of the Forge.
You can also contact us at mastersoftheforge@gmail.com if you have any questions, topic suggestions, or if you'd like to advertise your creative hobby endeavor. Thanks again for listening.
The music used in this podcast was made by Parad of the duo Sublevel 3. The track is used with his permission. This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Non-Commercial International License. More information about this license and contact information if you have any requests can be found at our blog, mastersoftheforge.com.
It's such a good feeling to play games your way. It's such a happy feeling 40K'ing away. And when you throw dice with story in mind, it's such a wonderful way to unwind. It's a good feeling, a very good feeling, the feeling you know that we'll be back when the fortnight's new, and we'll have new ideas for you, and you'll have things you'll want to talk about. We will too.